1 minute ago, the mask finally slipped. 1 minute ago, the calm, measured, media-trained politician who had spent years carefully crafting an image of steady competence shattered in front of the nation. Sir Keir Starmer, the man who promised. A grown-up alternative who sold himself as the unflappable adult in the room, exploded. He exploded in anger and frustration and barely contained rage. What triggered it was not some heckler in the streets, not a backbencher rebellion, but something far more devastating: Connolly's final court decision. The name alone has become a symbol of defiance, a thorn in the side of the Labour leadership. 4 months now, Starmer's team has tried to paint Connolly as a distraction, a rebel without a cause, and a voice of the fringe. They dismissed him. In interviews, they ridiculed him in private, and they leaked stories to undermine his credibility. But Connolly did not flinch. He did not bend. He took the battle to the courts, and tonight, the courts delivered a verdict that cut through Starmer's carefully constructed facade like a knife. This is not just a legal defeat for Keir Starmer. This is a political humiliation, a brutal, public, undeniable declaration that everything he has tried to sweep under the rug, the internal stitch-ups, the betrayals of party democracy, the cynical purges of dissent, have been laid bare for all to see. The judgment is damning, and it leaves Starmer not just exposed but enraged. You could see it in his eyes as he stepped up to the podium. Gone was the rehearsed half-smile and the lawyerly precision of his words. This was raw. This was personal. And for the first time, the country saw not the calm technician of politics, but the brittle man beneath the surface. He launched into a tirade against Connolly, denouncing him as reckless, dangerous, and divisive. He railed against the court, calling the ruling perverse, irresponsible, and a threat to the integrity of the party. He blamed everyone but himself: the press, the judges, the so-called hard left, the so-called hard right, and even his own MPs. He painted himself as the victim of a vendetta, as though the betrayal of trust and principle his leadership represents could somehow be justified by the fact that someone dared to hold him accountable. But here's the truth he cannot outrun. This is not about Connolly. This is about Keir Starmer's own decisions, his own betrayals, and his own choice to put the machinery of power above the people who entrusted him with it. This is about the promises he made and broke. He told Labour members he would unite the party. Instead, he has torn it apart with ruthless factionalism, suspending and expelling anyone who dared to question him. He told working people he would stand with them. Instead, he's courted big business, watered down policies, and sided with the same establishment forces who have strangled this country for decades. He told the public he was a man of principle. Instead, he's governed by focus groups and fear. And now, tonight, the very legal system that he once presided over as Director of Public Prosecutions has turned on him. The law, his own language, his own arena, has declared that the way he has wielded his authority within the party is wrong, unjust, a violation of basic democratic rights. That is why he exploded. Because this is not just a loss of face. This is a loss of control. And if there is one thing men like Keir Starmer cannot abide by, it is the realization that their grip on power is weaker than they believed. Make no mistake, what we saw tonight was not a moment of strength. It was a moment of fear. Because Starmer knows that this decision changes everything. It emboldens his critics. It reopens wounds he thought he had stitched shut. It shows the world, and his own members, that his authority is not absolute. That the story he has tried to tell about himself as the cool, competent, inevitable leader who will carry Labour back to power is just that, a story. And behind that story is a man who can be rattled, a man who can be beaten. The question now is what comes next. Already, Connolly's supporters are mobilizing. Already, the corridors of Westminster are buzzing with talk of motions, challenges, and rebellions. Already, MPs who have kept their heads down for fear of reprisal are whispering that perhaps now is the time to speak out. And yet, even now, Starmer still does not seem to understand the depth of the crisis he faces. His response tonight, in its fury and its self-pity, only underscored what his critics have said all along, that he sees the party not as a movement, but as a machine, and himself as its unquestionable master. But Labour was never meant to belong to one man. It was meant to belong to the people who built it, who sustained it through decades of struggle and sacrifice. the trade unionists, the socialists, the dreamers, and the doers who believed that together we could build something better. That is what Connolly reminded us of tonight. That is what the court decision affirmed. That no leader, no matter how slick, no matter how ruthless, has the right to erase that history, to silence those voices, to turn the party of the people into just another instrument of his own ambition. Keir Starmer exploded tonight because he was forced to confront a reality he has spent his entire leadership trying to deny, that you cannot lead by fear forever. That sooner or later, the people you suppress will rise up. That sooner or later, the truth will out. And it has. This is not just a bad news cycle. This is the beginning of a reckoning. A reckoning for a man who thought he could remake the party in his own image and instead finds himself standing amid the ruins of his own credibility. For too long, the people who keep this party alive have been told to sit down, shut up, and be grateful. For too long, they have been told that principle must be sacrificed for power. But tonight proves what many have always known. That power without principle is worthless. And that principle, when wielded with courage, can shake the foundations of even the mightiest institutions. That is what Keir Starmer learned tonight. And that is why he exploded. Because the facade has cracked, and the world can see the truth. The truth is that Connolly's victory is not just his own. It is a victory for every party member who has felt betrayed. For every activist who has watched their hard work twisted to serve an agenda they do not recognize. For every voter who has wondered what happened to the party that once stood proudly for working people. It is a reminder that the party belongs to its people, and that no leader can take it from them without a fight. Keir Starmer exploded tonight because he thought he could govern by decree, because he thought he could silence dissent, because he thought the courts would rubber stamp his authoritarianism. He was wrong. And now, as the dust settles and the cameras continue to roll, the question hangs heavy in the air. What kind of party does Labour want to be? Does it want to be the party of backroom deals, of calculated purges, of endless triangulation? Or does it want to be what it was born to be, the party of the people? That choice is coming, sooner than Starmer ever imagined. And when it does, the people will remember tonight. They will remember the anger in his eyes, the contempt in his words, the fear behind his fury. Because for the first time in his career, Keir Starmer was forced to face something he cannot control, the will of the people. And that is something no leader, no matter how powerful, no matter how polished, can explode his way out of. Tonight, the reckoning has begun.